This video uses a combination of products by Brother: the Scan and Cut, PE Design Next, and an embroidery machine to create an applique quilt block. For this demonstration, I have chosen a block from Anita Goodesigns Baby Blanket Stitch. Begin by opening the embroidery file in PE Design Next. Then, save as a file with a new name. Now highlight the block, and an Attributes tab will appear along the program's top ribbon. The Attribute tab is only there when the block is selected with the black square selection handles around it. Open up the Attribute tab and choose the option along its top ribbon to divide by color. Now you may select parts of the design to delete. In the Sewing Order box, highlight the first several colors and right-click to open the drop-down box where you click on Select Objects. With them selected, hit the Delete key on your keyboard. Look at how much of the design disappeared. The goal is to only keep the file for the tack-down stitch of the two applique designs, which are the duck and the wheel. Select each color in the Sewing Order box that is not needed, right-click on Select Objects and delete. Once you have only the duck and the wheel left, select one of them to move away from the other into a nice configuration for printing. Next, change the color to black so that the printout will have a nice contrast with crisp lines. This is a file for exactly where the stitch will stitch, but the fabric needs to be slightly larger than that. You may increase the size of each of these objects in PE Design Next by highlighting the object, choosing Resize from the Edit tab, and increasing the size 101% to 102%. Or you may resize it in the Scan and Cut. Print a copy to take to your Scan and Cut. When scanning paper, use the low-tack mat. With the pattern on the low-tack mat, we're going to load the mat. And now we'll push the word Scan, and we're going to scan to cut data. And it is thinking as it recognizes the data. Once you have scanned your image and the data has been processed, this screen will appear. Select the single outline of multiple objects and the data will be darkened. Use the red arrows on this screen to move the crop lines close to your desired objects. Once you have cropped your scan, you will need to save it before further editing. You may save it either to the Scan and Cut machine or to a USB stick. I saved mine to the machine. Then delete this pattern. Go to Home and take the Pattern tab. With the Pattern tab open, at the top of the screen you will see the saved data file. Scroll to the design you wanted to edit and click OK. To edit, choose the Edit icon at the top left corner of the screen. If there are still small spots or unwanted lines, they can be deleted now. Touch the icon that looks like a row of boxes. When you have a red box around the unwanted marks, you may delete them by clicking on the garbage can. With only the desired shapes left, you may work on them individually with the select arrows highlighting the shapes with a red box. If you did not increase the design to 101 or 102% in PE Design, you will need to do it here using the features in the icon under a square that has two sets of red arrows. For this purpose, use the default to maintain the ratio. I changed the duck from a height of 4.07 to that of 4.15, or used 8 plus marks. And then I did the same for the wheel. The Scan and Cut comes with a low-tack adhesive mat, which has a turquoise border, a standard adhesive mat which has a purple border, and a high-tack adhesive fabric support sheet, which is a sheet to be layered onto the standard mat. This is because adhesive matters greatly. The low-tack mat is for delicate papers that could easily tear if stuck too securely to the mat. But fabric is just the opposite and must be stuck very securely. The most important thing when cutting fabric is that it does not move during the process. To assure that the blade does not drag any spot, there must be no bubbles between the mat and the fabric. Mats lose their stickiness, so I have learned several methods to assure the fabric sticks well. For a machine embroidered applique, I like to spray the back of the fabric with 505 repositionable spray. Unlike stabilizing the fabric with fusible web, this spray does not add stiffness to the fabric, but does allow it to stick to the mat and then the base fabric. Use the included spatula, or a brayer, to assure that the fabric is firmly attached to the mat without any wrinkles. With the fabric securely matched, load your mat. Then scan an image of where the fabric is on the mat. You may adjust the intensity of the background image in your toolbox button. That's the one that looks like a pliers on your machine. Touch the scan icon and the scan message will appear, at which time you will need to press the Start/Stop button. Once your image has been scanned, you may use your stylus to move the cut files onto the proper location of the mat's image. If you are using scraps of fabric, you might need to go into the Rotate Image area of the individual highlighted pattern to achieve the perfect placement upon the fabric's image. With my fabric treated only with 505 spray adhesive, but firmly attached to the standard mat, the blade depth set at 4 and the pressure at 3, I am ready to cut. Now all you have left to do is embroider the design. Be sure to use a good embroidery needle size 12 and a high quality embroidery thread. The high speed and the density of machine embroidery stitches puts greater stress on the thread than standard sewing. Thread may be abrased in the thread path 2 to 3 times more than under normal sewing. My preferred thread for embroidery is isocord, but even it will fray if the needle is worn out, if there is not enough stabilizer for the design stitch count, or if there is too much of anything sticky that gums up the needle. For each color change, do clip the thread at the top of the thread path and discard the length of abrased thread. The machine will thank you for not pulling damaged thread back into its electronic sensors or tension discs. What a great design digitized for us by Anita Goodesign.